True Story Media.
It's okay to want an abortion. Did you know 1 in 4 people who can get pregnant will have one? So it's actually more common than most people think. At CareFM, you can choose what type of abortion care works best for you. We have in-person locations with private entrances in Atlanta, Chicago, and the Washington, D.C. areas. And we also offer medically supported abortion pills by mail in 20 states. For some people, it's more comforting to come into a private office where they can sit with one of our medical providers and either leave no longer pregnant or with abortion pills in hand. For others, they prefer to get abortion pills through the mail so they can decide the best time and place to complete the process. Getting abortion pills by mail from CareFM is simple. Fill out an online form, and a licensed provider will review your medical history. And if eligible, your medication will be shipped to you in a couple of days. Kara, our text-based abortion companion, will guide you through the process from start to finish with instructions, reminders, and answers to all your questions whenever they come up 24/7. With either choice, please know CareFM will support you every step of the way. Learn more at carefm.org.
Jack Barsky is a former Soviet Union spy, but there was a problem. He wanted out.
So how do you resign from the KGB, right? What do you tell them? I'm not coming, or you just disappear? No, I came up with the second most brilliant lie in my entire life. The first one was that I was born in the United States. The second one was that I had contracted HIV/AIDS.
I interviewed Jack Barsky for an episode from season 9 of Pretend called The KGB Agent. And as I was working on this episode, I kept remembering this part of our conversation. Jack Barsky infiltrated the United States to spy on us. Eventually, Moscow ordered him to return to the Soviet Union, but he didn't want to leave. So he faked having HIV.
And that was a death sentence in those days. What I wrote them is, I have this AIDS. I made it believable. I said, I got it from this girl who I once profiled, who had a boyfriend that she told me later was a drug addict and who had AIDS. So that's how I got it. And the only possible chance I have for treatment is in this country. That's why I'm not coming. And I also wrote, I will not defect. I will not betray the Soviet Union or the German Democratic Republic. They bought it hook, line, and sinker.
There are many reasons why someone would fake a deadly disease like AIDS or cancer. Maybe it's for money, or attention, or to hold on to someone who's pulling away. But the more I dug into these cases, the more complicated the motives became. Because not every cancer faker is running a big scam. Some are desperate, some are scared, and some are just trying to rewrite their story when everything else in their life feels completely out of control. In this episode, we are going to look at the emotional side of these lies. Why do people do it? What are they trying to gain? And what happens when the truth finally comes out? We're talking about how do you hold these people accountable? Because faking cancer isn't just immoral. In a lot of cases, it's criminal. This is part 2 of the Cancer Sympathy Machine. I'm Javier Leiva, and this is Pretend. Stories about people pretending to be someone else.
It's okay to want an abortion. Did you know 1 in 4 people who can get pregnant will have one? So it's actually more common than most people think. At CareFM, you can choose what type of abortion care works best for you. We have in-person locations with private entrances in Atlanta, Chicago, and the Washington, D.C. areas. And we also offer medically supported abortion pills by mail in 20 states. For some people, it's more comforting to come into a private office where they can sit with one of our medical providers and either leave no longer pregnant or with abortion pills in hand. For others, they prefer to get abortion pills through the mail so they can decide the best time and place to complete the process. Getting abortion pills by mail from Carafem is simple. Fill out an online form, and a licensed provider will review your medical history. And if eligible, your medication will be shipped to you in a couple of days. Cara, our text-based abortion companion, will guide you through the process from start to finish with instructions, reminders, and answers to all your questions whenever they come up 24/7. With either choice, please know Carafem will support you every step of the way. Learn more at carafem.org.
Today's episode is sponsored by Mint Mobile. I've been using Mint Mobile now for maybe a couple months, and I love it. I finally get a signal around my house. If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees. So if you want to trim a little fat from your budget, ditch that overpriced wireless plan and those jaw-dropping monthly bills. Plans at Mint Mobile start at $15 a month. And all plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. And you can use your phone with any Mint Mobile plan. Just bring your phone and your contacts along with it. So are you ready to say yes to saying no? Make the switch at mintmobile.com/pretend. That's mintmobile.com/pretend. Upfront payments of $45 required, equivalent to $15 a month. Limited time new customer offer for the first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plans. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for more details. Bill Petrich spent the last 15 years studying people who fake cancer. It's an odd hobby, but one that he's compelled to do. He survived his battle with cancer. He knows how horrible it could be. So he asked himself, why would people fake it? During my conversation with Bill, he brought up some different reasons why people fake cancer. Reasons that I never really considered. What I think is kind of interesting is that you categorize these fakers, cancer fakers, like into categories. And I know some of them overlap, but can you kind of walk us through some of these categories? I mean, one of them seems more obvious than the others.
Yeah, I think most people assume that most cancer fakers are in it for money primarily. I've found that that's often not the case, that it's actually more common for people to fake cancer for social gain, for things like love or sympathy or attention.
The social gain, it's kind of like the way I think about it. It's like being invited to your own funeral, except you don't die. Right.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden, there's something about like learning that somebody you know is sick, and all of a sudden their mortality clock starts ticking, and things that you would normally not tell them, you just start pouring out all this affection, all these great memories.
And I've found that sometimes people start faking for social gain and end up taking money sort of by and end up becoming both. And sometimes people start just trying to take money, but they like what being a cancer patient gives them socially in their community, and they slide into the social gain part too.
Faking cancer can mean big business, and no one made that clearer than Belle Gibson, a wellness influencer from Australia who built an entire brand around this lie. She claimed that she had terminal brain cancer. She said that she was healing it naturally with clean eating and alternative medicine. No chemo, no radiation, just good food and willpower. And her story took off. She built a massive following, launched a best-selling app, and scored even a book deal. But there was a problem. Belle Gibson never had cancer. It was all made up. It was a story crafted to sell hope and products to people desperate for answers. Here is Belle Gibson speaking with 60 Minutes Australia.
In 2013, I have been healing a severe and malignant brain cancer for the past few years with natural medicine, Gerson therapy and foods. It's working for me.
It is. And
Except you didn't have brain cancer.
No, I didn't.
No.
But when I was writing that, I thought that I did, and I was feeling well.
Yes, but even then you misrepresented what you thought was your truth, which was all a big lie anyway.
I'm really sorry. and it hurts me, and I beat myself up every day for how I have hurt those who mean a lot to me.
So how did Belle Gibson come to believe that she had cancer? She says that a man came to her house, someone she describes as an immunologist and neurologist. But based on what followed, he sounds more like a homeopathic healer making a house call. He brought this strange-looking device with him, a box with blinking lights. He said it was some kind of German medical technology. It had 2 metal pads. One went under the chair and the other behind her back. And according to him, the machine could read her body frequencies. That's how she says that she got the diagnosis. No scans, no lab work, just a house call from a mystery man with a light-up box. And Belle Gibson says that she believed him.
He said to me that I had a stage 4 brain tumor and that I had approximately 4 months to live.
Here's my favorite part of the interview. Belle Gibson thought that she had cancer because she wasn't feeling well. So she called a man to come to her house because
I believed he was a real doctor.
So did you lie to be believed?
And she believed that that doctor gave her treatment.
I believed that I was having radiotherapy. When he gave me medication, I was told that it was oral chemotherapy, and I believed it.
But believing is not a defense, because for Belle Gibson, faking cancer wasn't just a personal delusion, it became a business. She launched a healthy lifestyle app, followed by a cookbook filled with recipes that she claimed helped her beat cancer naturally. But maybe the worst part of it all wasn't the money she made, it was the influence. She convinced vulnerable people, real patients, to turn away from proven cancer treatments, to put their trust in smoothies, detox, and pseudoscience, all based on a lie. So clearly, Belle Gibson faked cancer to make a buck. But not all people who fake cancer are doing it for money or for social gains. So what other reasons would anyone have to fake cancer?
Misdirection is a situation where someone uses a cancer faking lie, not to make money or for social gain, but basically as a red herring, as a way to distract from something else they're doing. For example, a person is committing a financial crime. They're embezzling money at work, or, they're doing something that if it gets caught, they might go to jail. They're going to lose their job. And the pressure's on. Maybe some people are starting to look at the spreadsheets and be like, something's not adding up here. Who's the last person who did this? And that's when they're like, I can't answer that question. I actually have cancer right now. I'm going through this terrible diagnosis. And it can be like a way to delay for several months someone finding out that they've been cooking the books or that they've been, committing some crime. And it also happens a decent amount like during court proceedings where someone is going to be sentenced for some unrelated crime, and to try to get leniency in sentencing or try to delay the proceedings, they tell their lawyer to tell the court that they have cancer and they need to go through treatment.
I've seen that happen. Yeah.
You've seen that happen. Okay. So they can't be at the sentencing, or it just throws a wrench.
It might not be cancer, but it's some sort of crazy medical incident that delays the inevitable,
And then there's illness swapping, which is when someone really is physically sick, but they're physically sick from something that isn't cancer, and they want people to think it's cancer because having cancer would be less embarrassing or more socially acceptable than what they actually have. And that's because the condition that they have is something like late stage alcoholism. They're in liver failure and they look really bad. They look really sick. And so saying that they have cancer explains why they look physically sick. It explains why they have to go to the hospital all the time. It explains maybe why they are asking for some money to deal with some treatment or some groceries or something. And it's like, it's easier to say I'm dying of cancer than it is to say, I've been drinking again on the liver transplant. I couldn't stop and I'm eventually going to die because I'm an addict. And it's often drugs, it's meth, it's heroin, it's, whatever it is. But the cancer can be a convenient mask that explains why you look so bad, explains why you need treatment. Cancer is not your fault in the same way that being a drug addict is to a lot of people. It's harder to blame someone for having cancer And people are a lot kinder and willing to help and willing to forgive someone if, it's a terminal cancer diagnosis versus something that's seen as your own fault. An extraordinary example of this is that back in the 1980s, during the AIDS epidemic, a lot of gay men who got HIV and AIDS, we lived at a time when that was socially not acceptable. You'd be shunned. People thought you were evil in some quarters even. And so tragically, a lot of those people, a lot of their families had to say that they had late stage cancer just so they could get in a hospital, just so they could get in a funeral home and be buried with their family, because a lot of people in the 80s would have said, no, I'm not letting someone with AIDS, into my funeral home. Those people are sinners. They're going straight to hell. But if they had cancer, then they're an empathetic human being who deserves your love and your services.
And it's interesting because in that scenario, and you could almost, it's the least worst way of faking cancer, right? Because it's you could understand why even somebody who had AIDS would say that they had cancer just because it was such a, socially unacceptable thing, to be gay, or the panic that was going on around that time. Yeah.
And you're not hurting anyone with that lie. You're covering for something so that you can access a service or access your own dignity. You're not going out of your way to trick people or lie to people or take anything from people. But maybe the most socially acceptable type of faking cancer, I think, is this survival category. And the best example I can give you, the most common one, is a husband is abusing his wife. He's violent, he's mean, but when his wife says that she has cancer and is sick, he stops hitting her and he stops being mean to her, and he starts having some compassion and helping her out. And he starts being the husband that she wants him to be all of the time. And so the message to the faker is this is the only way I'm going to survive and thrive in this marriage. This is the only way this man will treat me with dignity and respect, as if they think that I'm a victim of a disease.
eLIESabeth Teckenbrock, who we talked about earlier, used this excuse.
Was the whole entire scenario exaggerated to probably the fullest extent? Absolutely it was. I'm not going to deny that. I used that very much so to get the fuck out of my life and relationship that I was in.
To be fair, we're only telling part of eLIESabeth's story here. There's a lot more, including layers of personal drama, online backlash, and a digital trail that's still unfolding. For a deeper dive into eLIESabeth Teckenbrock, check out my bonus episode with the creators of the eLIESabeth podcast. You'll find it on Patreon and Pretend Plus on Apple Podcasts. And while we're at it, go check out the eLIESabeth podcast. Season 2 is just rolling out. It's important to mention that eLIESabeth Teckenbrock has also made allegations of her own. She claimed that her ex-husband Andrew was abusive, even posting videos online showing bruises on her neck as evidence. Here's Cheryl Lynn, the co-host of the eLIESabeth podcast.
She comes out, says she's abused by him. Who are we to say that we know what's happening behind closed doors? We don't. She did this cancer scam. She did all these, she's lied so much to get herself out of this abusive situation that it was fight or flight. She had no other choice. That's not true. She's done this long before Andrew, even with her second child, starting a GoFundMe saying that she had leukemia, and it was the baby's father who figured out, by taking her to the doctor and being told, no, that's not true. And then you've got the domestic violence charity that she started and sold all of these tickets, and it never happened. So it's your own actions are what discredit you. So we're not even going to say Andrew didn't lay hands on you. We don't know that, but that's irrelevant when it comes to this story specifically and the people you have harmed.
Like Bill pointed out earlier, there are different types of cancer fakers, and a lot of times the line between those categories get blurry. You might fake cancer to get out of a relationship, but also enjoy the attention. Or maybe it starts out by seeking sympathy and turns into something more manipulative. The point is, it's rarely one thing. In August 2023, eLIESabeth Teckenbrock was arrested again, and this time it was for check fraud. According to court documents, she was hit with 3 felony charges, one for grand theft in the 3rd degree and 2 more for depositing cashier's check with the intent to defraud. But Bill Petrich, who actually went through cancer himself, doesn't come at this with pitchforks. When he talks with people who fake cancer, he's not trying to catch them in a lie or to make them feel worse. He wants to understand them. What made them do it? What are they really looking for? He's not about the blame. He's more interested in figuring out what's going on underneath it all.
The news media has covered it wrong. It's usually milked for max shock value, and it's usually focused on like how freaking horrible the perpetrator is, what a monster they are to do this to other people. And I think that's an understandable reaction, but like I guess I would just say that most of the people who fake cancer aren't fundamentally different than you or me. They're not some other species. They're not some monster. They're just people who are in desperate situations oftentimes, or who are mentally unstable, have underlying mental health conditions that are not being addressed, have deep voids in their life that in the moment, this seems like a rational way to go about the world, to get love, to get money, whatever it is. So I would advise just not assuming evil in other people and trying to look at like the material and social conditions that caused a cancer fake.
Here's Elizabeth Teckenbrock again.
I also will say most, not all, but most of what my ex-husband has put on the line online is true. Things I have done, things I have said. My story is still true. But I have done really awful things. And for that, I'm sorry. And I wish someone knew. I wish I could explain in my head out loud how much I want to be normal, you know, and to not struggle mentally.
Got a text conversation ongoing with a faker who did this, and ended up going to jail for 5 years because it all fell apart, and she took benefit money, and the courts went really hard at her. And something I've learned from talking to cancer fakers in this situation is that the news media often gets it wrong, often sensationalizes the case, and if there's money taken, makes it all about the money. And there's an assumption that if someone took money, obviously they faked cancer because they wanted to take money. What I've found is often the case is someone fakes cancer because they're trying to survive their marriage, or they're in a really desperate place, never had any thought to take money. But because this is America and cancer costs money, people, good Samaritans, will throw a benefit. They'll give you money, and it puts the faker in a really tough position where it's like, A, I take the money to keep this lie going and not have to admit what's going on, which is the easy way. Or B, I don't take the money and I come clean and I say I've been faking cancer and now everyone hates me and thinks I'm a monster. And it's like, you don't want to do that in the moment. So you take the money, even though you didn't plan.
They're in too deep.
You're in too deep. And the second you take the money, you're a criminal. You've committed fraud. And that's what people go to jail for. That's what people get prosecuted for. So, there's plenty.
What's interesting about the way you talk about it, especially even being a cancer survivor yourself, is the amount of empathy you have for these people, because we so easily villainize these people. And most people think about the social gain and the material gain category, but you just brought up a whole bunch of different scenarios where it might be socially acceptable, or not socially acceptable, but at least you could understand why they did what they did, right?
Yeah, it's a whole spectrum. I mean, there are people out there who are just like, I need to make some money. People trust people with cancer. People feel bad for people with cancer. It's a perfect lie. So I'm going to make a GoFundMe. I'm going to milk people out of their money because I want to buy a car and pay my rent. And that's just how I'm going to live. Most people who fake cancer are not premeditated planners like that. It's a desperate reaction to a desperate situation in someone's life, whether it's an abusive relationship or just really deep, dark depression and lack of meaning in their life. Like very, very few people are faking cancer because everything's okay and they just kind of want to lark and want to see how people react. it's hard to justify most of their actions, but I think it's usually easy to see the human longing and the dark need for something like this in people's lives, because just people are going through a lot of really hard stuff.
So like I remember watching your TikTok video and you start telling your own journey with cancer. And I mean, the first thought that came across my mind was like, is this guy faking cancer? Like, how do I know?
But like, I recognize the potential irony in the faking cancer expert faking their own cancer to be the faking. Like there's a whole ball of twine there that you can see that being this meta sort of postmodern performance art. And that's not what I'm doing.
Bill told me that most of these cancer fakers aren't thinking long term. They are living in the moment, juggling one lie at a time.
Most people who fake cancer don't have an exit strategy. They don't have a plan where in 6 months, I'm going to say that the treatment worked and I'm going to wrap this up and grow my hair back and get back into my normal life. Like most people are not thinking like that. Yeah. They're thinking, how am I going to maximize this today? How am I going to maximize this in this conversation I'm in right now? They are living in the moment. They are compartmentalizing. They are often not thinking about the inevitability that this is all going to blow up down the road because they're not faking it well enough that people aren't going to catch them. But they're really just living in the moment, living in the conversation and trying to get what they can now.
The truth is that most cancer fraud cases in the U.S. don't break the bank. A lot of them involve less than $50,000. Still pretty bad, but relatively small scale. But then there's Amanda Riley, better known as Scamanda. She ran her scheme for nearly 8 years, claiming that she had Hodgkin's lymphoma. She blogged about it, posted tearful updates on social media, and even held fundraisers at church. All told, Amanda Riley brought in over $100,000 from 349 donors. That's more than double the average cancer scam. And every dollar went towards treatment that she never actually needed. But Amanda wasn't even the worst offender. Jennifer Cataldo took it further. She faked terminal cancer and collected roughly $264,000 through personal checks, cash, and GoFundMe. Her lie stretched over 3 years, and she kept it going until the moment she got caught. Then there's Belle Gibson. Remember her from Australia? She built that entire wellness brand on the false claim that she cured terminal cancer with food and natural remedies. How much did she bring in? Well, between her cookbook and wellness app, she pulled in around 420,000 Australian dollars. That's about $270,000 in the US. And topping the list, DJ Carey, who we talked about in part 1. The Irish sports legend told friends and family that he had aggressive cancer and that he needed money for an urgent treatment. In the end, 22 people gave him nearly 420,000 US dollars. In 2023, the Federal Trade Commission recorded nearly 10,000 cases of charitable solicitation fraud in the U.S. alone. That's $22.5 million lost to fake causes. That's a huge spike from just a few years ago. And sadly, those numbers are still climbing. Here's Cece Suarez from the eLIESabeth podcast.
I think that she's been able to continue to do this over and over again, thanks to the virality of TikTok video and gaining a following, but then also the chaos machine that is TikTok and the TikTokification of it only being short videos. You see a snippet here and there, and your attention span is so short on TikTok, and it just breeds misinformation being spread.
And I think when it comes to the financial and material gain part, a lot of listeners are probably listening to this. They watch all these documentaries about people faking cancer, podcasts, and they might come to the conclusion like, hey, GoFundMe. If I see a GoFundMe, you know what? When in doubt, go without. I'm not going to support the GoFundMe because how am I to know if these people are for real or not? After having this experience of having cancer yourself and then also studying these people who fake cancers, how do you feel about the GoFundMes? Should you still give even though there's that small chance that somebody's faking it? Because it is a very small chance.
Right. Most people who say that they have cancer are telling the truth. I mean, faking cancer has gotten shockingly common. There's thousands and thousands of people doing this, but at the end of the day, most people who say they have cancer do have cancer. And so my biggest fear in what I do is that I'm going to negatively influence the public to think that they need to be more suspicious about people saying they have cancer than they really should be, and that I'm going to hurt people who really do have cancer by increasing that level of doubt and making them explain themselves more than they should have to. This might surprise people, but I, as a cancer faking expert, I am willing to be, I would rather be fooled than close my heart to people who are sick, I guess. I would rather a cancer faker pulled one over on me once than I wasn't generous or kind to a person who was really sick. There's no shame in assuming the best in someone in a difficult situation and being burned, in my opinion. Like, the shame is all on the person who is taking advantage of you. But I don't contribute to GoFundMes for people I don't know. It's not even just faking cancer. I've just heard so many GoFundMe scam stories that, like, I don't want to contribute to something that might be a lie, but I also don't want to be so closed-hearted that I don't help people with cancer. So it's like, it's a balance where if I'm compelled by a story, I'm going to do my own research basically and look into it and make sure that it doesn't seem suspicious. But at the end of the day, I don't want to be so jaded that I don't look at cancer patients with empathy and with charity in my heart.
So far, we've looked at the bigger picture, the scam, the psychology, and the people behind the fake cancer stories. But next time, it gets personal. In part 3 of the Cancer Sympathy Machine, you are going to hear from Harry. This isn't just a story that he's telling, it's one that he's lived. Harry fell for a woman named Rachel. She was charming, beautiful, a former beauty queen. And she told him that she was sick, like cancer sick. But as the relationship unfolded, things didn't add up. And once Harry started digging, the whole story just took a wild turn. I mean, we're talking about fake pregnancies, made-up medical emergencies, and even stolen identities. Rachel had been living a lie for 20 years, and Harry was caught right in the middle of it. That's coming up in part 3 of the Cancer Sympathy Machine.